Hello and welcome to PrimeTime League. I'm Riv and Jatt III along with Joshua Jatt Leesman, and you can now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Absolutely, except we are not fully armed and we are not a battle station.
A man can dream, Jatt. A man can dream. But we are fully operational after the LCS kicked off its season and joined the rest of the world in their ongoing games as we head towards the Summoners Cup.
Absolutely. We'll check in on the League of Legends action with the major regions, along with a stop off for a mic check and a look at some fantastic plays. But we will start things off with a highlight from earlier today.
That's right. The update comes from Korea, where 2-1 Jin Air Green Wings took on the 1-2 Incredible Miracle this morning in a best-of-3, with both teams looking to climb out of the middle of the standings.
And Jin Air had been looking really good in their best-of-3 they had against Najin. A lot of people were expecting Jin Air to maybe make a move to the top of the LCK standings.
Well, they did show a little bit of life in this series, but Chaser on Jarvan was all over the map, and the synergy with the team was too good.
Definitely didn't start well for Jin Air, but it started fantastically for Incredible Miracle. Specifically Chaser, they got the catch in the top lane, and they pull off a brilliant gank. Thresh plus Jarvan in that fashion is nearly impossible to stop.
And that Thresh as well, the long max range hooks. Incredible Miracle would just go on to pretty much roll over these fights consistently. You can see 11-1 on the scoreboard. Doesn't look pretty.
It was a very convincing game, and with the Baron buff here, with the catch potential, and especially with the push potential, they could actually end this one quickly.
And Jin Air's Game 2 turnaround was a long, drawn-out 10-6 victory, which brings us to Game 3.
And there was a lot of tension coming into this one after the length of Game 2. Obviously, Frozen was a priority again on the Xerath. This time, Jin Air did a much better job shutting him down early.
Really going hard in that mid lane, trying to solidify these kills for themselves. And in this game, 5 dragons for IM.
Yeah, you could see, obviously, they couldn't quite get the close on. It was a very back-and-forth 60-minute game.
Crazy.
This was actually the deciding factor, though, the catch on Anami.
The catch and the push right into the base. They're finally able to make this happen. The 5 dragons are actually on Jin Air, sorry. But yeah, I am able to come out with the win and the victory.
One of those very rare games when the team with 5 dragons can't capitalize into a victory, but it ended up costing them. They weren't necessarily aggressive enough. They got caught, and at that point, with 75-second death timers, they couldn't defend the push.
Very long game, 75-second death timers. The LCK headed into week 4 of their season, and while they did that, the European LCS spun up their first week. And one surprise was the not Fnatic, Fnatic. Coming into the split, the team was an unknown factor with their lineup consisting of 4 LCS newcomers. But they pulled together behind shot-calling support Yellowstar and topped both Elements and H2K Gaming in their LCS debut. Game 1 of the LCS entirely in EU, Yellowstar was eager to show his new team against the highly favored Elements.
It was a pretty hype game, but honestly, most people were just expecting Elements to crush.
Yep.
Wicked probably had the same idea too, thinking he could duel Huni. It was actually all a ruse.
Yeah, Houdini, he could change his name after that one. Great play by those two. Seeing him come out strong for the team is making a lot of Fnatic fans happy. Shook here at 20 minutes, he dives in, Wicked's baited in, and then Fnatic disengages nicely.
What do you call him, Houdini or something? Wicked jumps in. Oh, actually, he's gone again, and Wicked dies yet again. A really poor showing from Wicked, and the rest of Fnatic could come together and do these bait and switches again and again.
It's so good, and the man of the hour, 37 KDA in the first week of the LCS, steal back with help from his team and disengages like that.
They just trapped everything in that Cataclysm, and the rest of Alliance was, well, Alliance is no more. They're Elements now, but they're also no more because it was target practice for Feb event.
13,000 gold lead and double the kills. Fnatic pick up Game 1 of the EU LCS. We switch to Game 2. Keep our eyes on Fnatic, switch to H2K, and fix our sights on the bottom lane.
A lot of people were wondering whether Fnatic would be able to carry that momentum from the Elements win into this H2K game, and it looked like they may have gotten baited a bit here, but then Yellowstar, a turn, Tibbers on 3.
The perfect trap, and they set it. Hits the bait, H2K gets totally piled in, and Fnatic just has their way for this one.
There was such good control there. H2K's Rengar was unable to make any impact on that fight. It just seemed like Fnatic was such a well-coordinated team.
The magic word of the day, or the week for Fnatic, is disengage. Here it is once again. H2K just can't close the gap.
It was shot calling from Fnatic. It looked like a team that had been together for much longer, and a lot of the credit has to go to Yellowstar, the rock of that team, giving them confidence And he got the MVP of the week for his performance.
Absolutely amazing play coming out of those guys. But Fnatic wasn't the only team to go 2-0 in the first week of the LCS. So let's check out the standings with the 8 weeks left in the spring split. They were joined at the top by Giants, who returned to the LCS for the first time since 2013, as well as another Worlds team from last year, SK Gaming.
Nobody expected Giants up there as well. 4 teams split their way to 1-1, including fan favorites Elements and Unicorns of Love, and then 3 squads struck out. The IM champions, Gambit, H2K, and Meteor Makers all went 0-2.
And to shed more light on the current top teams over in Europe, let's check in with Shox, who's been doing a fantastic job at the helm of their new analyst desk. How's it going, Shox?
Well, thank you very much, Riv. I'm doing well.
So you guys had 3 teams go 2-0 last week. What do you think the chances are that they will stay at the top?
So, Riv, what you actually want to know is, are they contenders or are they pretenders?
That's actually a pretty good way of putting it. So how would you rank them?
Well, I would rank them Fnatic first, then SK Gaming, then Giants.
All right, so let's break it down. Why is Fnatic number 1?
Well, Fnatic, they came into the EU LCS with a brand new lineup led by Yellowstar. They beat Elements in their very first game. They also beat H2K, and they just looked fantastic as a team unit. Their team stats, 10.35 team KDA. That's the highest team KDA. Best gold per minute for a team. They did fantastic, and their individual stats were on top of that, also great across the board. We could highlight every single one of these players, but one example is Febiven in the mid lane, coming in for Xpeke, an 18 KDA in his first 2 games. That's the highest for a mid laner in EU, and also 2 times higher than the highest KDA overall. Looking ahead for them, they said themselves they still have a lot to improve on communication-wise, so they definitely can improve on that mark. Then Yellowstar mentioned as well, you know, I love to play, and every single member of my team loves to play as well. There are no more egos. On top of that, Yellowstar, he's been in every single world championship. I think they have ways to go, and I say they'll end up in the top 3.
All right, and next up is SK Gaming at number 2. Why is that?
Well, SK Gaming as well, a perfect week 1, beating out both Roccat and MYM, and much like Fnatic, also putting down a fantastic performance as a team, as well as the individual parts doing well. We know that Svenskeren and Freddy have fantastic synergy. They showed off that Gnar-Jarvan combo we've come to know and love. On the other hand, also in the bottom lane, Forgiving coming in that lineup together with Enrated. He's making a very, very aggressive plays there. And it's just a luxury for this team that we don't even have to mention What the Fox, that very good mid laner they have. They basically still have him in his back pocket if they need it. On top of that, SK Gaming has a really good supporting staff. They have a coach, manager, sports psychologist, everything's in the works there for them. And finally, last year, SK was very consistent and they made it to the World Championship, even with weaker lanes. Now they have strong lanes and their strong late game decision making. I also say they're contenders for top 3.
All right, and finally, what about the Giants? Quite an unexpected finish for this team.
Yeah, unexpected, and I think for them as well, they surprised themselves probably coming into week 1 with a 2-0 start. They were the underdogs coming in there, the full Spanish lineup, and they got to play their favorite, or the way they love to play, but they played it to a T. Werlip in that top lane on Jackson, absolute monster. He had 3 triple kills in week 1. Pepinero was comfortable in the mid lane. He was able to roam up, get those kills, and get him going. I do have to say they did have a good schedule coming into their first games. They beat MYM and the Copenhagen Wolves, and I think that the team underestimated the things they had to make versus them, or maybe just didn't research enough. Like, for instance, giving Werlip Jax, you know he's going to do good on that champion regardless. He can play from behind. He can push all day long. So I'm waiting to see what they do this week versus the Unicorns of Love, who have a very strong mid laner and top laner, and how they do versus H2K Gaming. I want to see this week. I'm going to say for now that they're a playoff contender, so definitely top 6.
All right, thank you, Shox, for the in-depth look. We'll keep watching to see how things shake out over in Berlin.
And with the first week of the LCS in the books, we can take a look at the fantasy players who performed well or not so well. But first, we have to check out the studs who did amazingly. Keith, 76 points. Really? He's Piglet's substitute. He made a lot of people on the forums just wonder if they even needed Piglet. I think they still do, but it's hard to get out of X Special Shadow, and we have to mention him here, 76 points. I Will Dominate as well, another teammate of Keith and X Special, scored 70 points. He was incredibly instrumental in Team Liquid's undefeated opening week, and obviously shows up in the stud for his fantasy performance. Our third stud as well, Febiven, who had the unenviable task of filling in for Xpeke's monstrous shoes there for the Fnatic mid laner. But he owned it. The 68 points helped Fnatic go 2-0. Unfortunately, only 3.1% of fantasy owners actually started him. That should skyrocket next week after that performance. But you can't have these guys with a bunch of points without having other guys with very few points. Crumbs, 8.3 points. Atrocious fantasy performance. He was the off-season prophet. Hopefully, he can foresee some better gank paths in the next game and get a few more fantasy points. Wicked as well, 12.7 points. Elements' top laner had an incredibly poor showing. Tons of deaths in the first game, immediately got baited in a few situations, and he tweeted, "First week of LCS is tough," and it's true. I'm sure a lot of the fantasy owners would agree with him on that point. Another guy who had a tough time in week 1, uncharacteristically, was Meteos. This guy's supposed to be the top performing jungle in both NA or EU, and that 16-point start is quite frankly unacceptable for him. I think he'll bounce back next week. But obviously, we've got to look towards the future. Let's look at some sleepers who should make an impact in the next week. Fnatic's entire team, if you're not starting them, last week, those 5 guys all placed in the top 10 of overall fantasy scorers. So they are a great pickup if any of them are available. Chris as well prompted his own team to say, even Chris did well. He was not expected to have this type of performance. 52 points. Coast looked good in both games despite going 1-1, so they very well could do better with teammate and gravity on the radar for them. And then Pepinero, another guy no one really expected to do well, should probably be available in most leagues, especially when you have fewer teams. He did great against the mid laners he was facing, and he's got a couple more up next week. Obviously, we have to look at some last-minute alerts as well to keep you very current on your roster. Piglet, as we mentioned at the top of this block, he's in. He is playing for Team Liquid this week, so make sure you take Keith out of your lineup and obviously start Piglet if you have him. World-class AD carry coming into the top team in the LCS currently in the standings. And Cloud9, just so everyone's up to date with everything, they looked disastrous in week 1. But this is a consistent team. They always bounce back. They have for the last year and a half. My personal advice is to stick with them. But be advised, they are 0-2, so if you're one of those people that's scared and like to make changes, you can change it, but only if you have a good substitute. But while we're talking fantasy, we should check in with Freak to see how he's holding up in PrimeTime League's Fantasy League of Legends Legendary League after getting crushed by Imagine Dragons.
Thanks very much, Jatt. And yeah, I imagine those guys are on top of the world right now, especially after they tweeted, "Considering our victory over you this week, what if we just swap drums? You play any instruments?" Yes, Imagine Dragons, I do. I play drums, so let me know if I can replace Dan P next week. But guys, it's time for a comeback. This week, I'm facing Shox' Dolphins, who got beached last week. She seemed like a fish out of water against Chris Cluey's team teaming Teemos. Those guys made a splash, winning by almost 100 points. Afterwards, he smack tweeted, "Poor Shox, you cannot stop the Teemos. You can only hope the mushroom kills you quickly." So I'm not too worried myself. I even swapped Freddy122 in for Wicked, and I know I should have done that last week, but at least I rectified the mistake now. I think my early bets on Elements and Cloud9 will pay off when those players shake off the week 1 cobwebs. But looking ahead to our league matchups this week in the PTLFL4, the battle for me to watch is actually between XPeke's Potato Gaming and Imagine Dragons. Peke, who's running his replacement Febivin in the mid lane, pulled in more than 300 points last week, so please XPeke, avenge my loss, become the Dovahkiin this week, and slay those dragons.
Now let's take a dragon descent into China and check in on the LPL, where 2 former world teams went head-to-head in their first duel on the Rift this season. It's OMG versus Starhorn Royal Club, where Uzi has a warm welcome for his former teammate Insect, and a warm one indeed, as he pretty much had his number and was gunning for him.
I really love watching Uzi. The biggest offseason acquisition probably, despite all the Korean players coming over,
for sure,
was OMG getting Uzi. And look, he comes in from behind the turret.
He may have changed teams, but he hasn't changed his play style. He's still the aggressive Uzi, locked and loaded and ready to start kills with the team.
Yeah, he definitely caught Insect out of position there and then just continued his onslaught. Once Uzi gets going, it's very hard to slow him down.
What a great spell shield, and the team's catching up. He's saying, don't worry, just secure me the second kill. I already got the first one.
Yeah, there was no stopping him in this one. Once Uzi runs in, kills your mid laner, and then Sivir ults afterwards, things are probably over. On to game 2.
Game 2, indeed, the dip, dash, and dodge comp here that can't be caught by Starhorn Royal Club, but can definitely be taken out by OMG.
It definitely felt like OMG was styling a little bit on Starhorn Royal Club here, getting both the LeBlanc and the Kassadin to chase people down. This one wasn't so much about Uzi as it was about everyone on OMG showing off.
And his Starhorn Royal Club here at 36 minutes goes for broke, trying to save the base. You can just see that OMG is way too powerful in that situation. After that match, we had a clash with 2 teams full of Korean imports as Edward Gaming went head-to-head with LGD, with both teams hoping to catch OMG or Snake in the standings.
Yeah, and one thing to note about LGD, they have 3 big-name Koreans on their team, but they can only start 2, so they swap Acorn and Flame in the top lane pretty much every game. This one, though, starts off in the mid lane.
And Wayless coming up very big against the world champion Pawn. He gets taken down, but he was a factor the entire series.
Yeah, being able to return the kill and at least get him the assist on Kassadin allows him to survive until later, but this top lane fight was pretty big.
Boom! Mouse gets to participate in this one, setting up depth for these Rockets, which another one's coming quite soon. But Pawn, soloing in Aurelia, a little different.
You would think that it's normally Caitlyn that gets a long-range snipes, but this time it was Deft. Rocket after rocket really propelled him ahead in this game. Check out this one.
Another one, just perfectly placed on the scattering opponents that he is fighting against. Here, diving into the fight, you can just see how hard it was for LGD to catch this EDG composition.
And specifically when Pawn had weathered the storm of a very fed Cassiopeia, he was able to just destroy LGD in these fights. And a triple kill on Kassadin. That was curtains.
Just 35 minutes in, keeping that average game time set. They take the game 1, and we are on to game 2, where Flame Rumble, he kind of gets pressured here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Flame's in the game. Let's gank him with 4 people. My question about all this is, where is the mid lane pressure from LGD? Because it looks like Pawn can do whatever he wants.
Smothering Flame once again at the top turret. So calm, cool, and collected. Yeah, I just dove your turret. Don't worry about it. LGD trying for a desperate attempt. You can see TBQ jump in, but it's just too late.
Yeah, Koro right there with the Gnarl
Such a good
into the wall. Really propelled EDG to a super fed state. You can see Deft here. I'd say Pawn gave him the early game, and Deft closed it out on Corki of all things. Triple kill after triple kill here at the end.
Yep, back to back here in those highlights. And just one last heart attack for his fans. Almost going down, but don't worry about it, guys. I'm safe.
Yeah,
I'm safe.
He's safe enough to actually pick up another kill and close out that last one for yet another triple kill.
So crazy. And with 2 weeks of matches complete, here's how the LPL standings stack up. After beating Starhorn Royal Club and Team WE, OMG is the current king of the hill with 12 points. But they are followed closely by Team Snake, who beat The Odds and Edward Gaming, giving them 10 points.
And despite besting them in their matchup last week, Edward Gaming is tied with LGD at 9 points, while Starhorn Royal Club slid all the way down to 6th in that 12-team league.
And fresh from celebrating Australia Day and full of meat pies, we have Julian Pastry Time Carr to take us deeper into the Chinese scene. How's it going, Pastry Time?
I'm great, Riv. How are you?
Not too bad. We actually got to have some meat pies here as well. Absolutely delicious. And since you called the games for the English-speaking viewers, give us the DL on the LPL.
Well, I think when everyone thinks of China as a region, one of the easiest ways to classify it is with AD carries. And man, have AD carries been good in the first 2 weeks of LPL. I mean, everyone knows Uzi. He's playing like an absolute beast. Imp and Deft from Korea have both been stellar. Imp playing still his trademark aggression, and Deft still playing kind of that more passive reactionary, but really powerful team fighting AD carry. Other than that, though, STYZ, who's been the other big guy to hyped up, has not played that well. But even Candy has stepped up. Kane's pretty good. And Crystal from Snake, that guy played Draven, went in 1v4 for a flank, did absolutely bonkers things in the last team fight. And pretty much every AD carry and bottom lane across the board from China has been absolutely amazing.
Awesome. So talking a little bit about the AD carries, tell me about the solo laners. How have they been faring in China?
Yeah, and that's sort of the other thing, I guess, is that the AD carries have been great, but the solo laners not so much. I mean, Dade, the big player from Korea that's looking good, he's got a ton of games to play, of course, but he's played, I guess, lukewarm throughout most of them. He's just not had the performance that he's used to. Going, on the other hand, is just an absolute beast in the top laner. Him and Koro almost having a top lane off to see who can carry harder. Save had a performance as well, playing for IG, didn't play that well. Same with Zatai. That substitution didn't work nearly as well for IG as they wanted it to. And in the mid lane as well, Cool from OMG, still absolutely ridiculous.
All right, and now looking ahead at the schedule, it looks like you'll have the honor of calling the PrimeTime League's BF Game of the Week as #1 ranked OMG takes on #2 Snake. How do you feel about that?
It's going to be awesome, man. I mean, it was maybe going to be the 2 undefeated teams, but right now, OMG, the only team at the top, and Snake, of course, in second place, going to look for that upset and see if they can actually win 2-0 and project themselves all the way to the top of the leaderboards. Even if it's a tie, OMG will still be the team in first place.
All right, Pastry Time, thank you very much, and we'll be sure to check you out on the LPL coming up this week. And last week, there was a matchup of the two most anticipated teams coming into the European LCS when 0-1 Elements took on the 1-0 Unicorns of Love. This was the last game of Day 2 in Week 1, so it demanded everything from these teams.
Yeah, I think the community would have exploded if Unicorns of Love crushed on this one, but the hype from Game 1 didn't carry over as well as they would have liked here, as Shook actually surprises them with the jungle Aatrox.
Yeah, jungle Aatrox, a Blitzcrank as well that yanks in Hylissang as a bystander on this one as Unicorns of Love start to lose the edge in this game, and that's all that Elements needs.
I mean, even at that point, Froggen was up in CS on Kasten with the kill. Now 2-0-4 coming into this fight. Even though the initiation seemed sound by Kikis, the fight was not.
Yeah, a little bit of a second guess there by Unicorns of Love, and that was the perfect opening for Elements to just take this fight at 19 minutes.
Wicked had a good bounce-back game from that feeding Aurelia performance he had earlier on in the week. And this one was just the story of the game for Power of Evil.
They just wanted to get something done.
Just
they said strat, make the strat, and they still lose Power of Evil in this one.
Misses the shockwave, then loses his life, and at that point, you're going to throw in the towel anyway, but they decide to base race against an Elements team that had Baron. That's not a base race. This is a base give up.
Mustang versus a Pinto, and there's no chance Mustang's going to win it. That's Elements. They're coming in for the win, and a 14-6, just about 33-minute victory to solidify this deal. So the anticipated matchup shows that Elements does not go 0-2 on the week.
They did a good job bouncing back. In the post-game interview as well, Reckless was very confident in their future. It's a long season.
They're long season indeed. And in celebration of Alliance making their elemental entrance into the LCS and achieving their first victory, Freak has prepared something lofty and special for the team.
Ladies and gentlemen, and League fans from around this mortal coil, Master Tier Theater presents a dramatic reading of The Elements Emerge, written by the Elementor himself for the creation of the team. The stout and sturdy Wicked puts all of his opponents in the ground. Shook puts the heat under his enemies and fires them up. With speed and grace, Froggen sweeps his foes off their feet. Through iron will and determination, Reckless delivers solid plays. And in fluid motion, Nif dictates the flow of the game. And there you have the Elements. Certainly a team worth keeping tabs on. Or not.
Now let's head over to North America, where Cloud9 looked like the team to beat, especially after dominating at IM San Jose. Plus, they were the only team to cross across 5 regions with no roster changes. They've been playing consistently well together across 3 splits and 2 World Championship appearances. And they went into their season opener facing a team they went to Worlds with just 4 months ago, and that's Team Solo Mid. We look at this highlight of Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid, and it just shows Bjergsen, he's back on form.
He really was. Early game, TSM looked a little bit rough. Cloud9 was looking on point with the lane swap giving him a big edge until this happened. Bjergsen with a solo kill onto high.
Yeah, Santorin was there in the back pocket, but not even necessary. And keeping an eye on the rest of Team Solo Mid, they find the fights they want, and Bjergsen's cleaning up just about everything.
And really, once TSM had control of the mid lane, they had control of the game. Their zoning in team fights was great. High can never get involved in this team fight, and Gnar could never find a good wall to ult TSM up to.
Crazy thing to hear, Cloud9 losing in team fights, usually where they come up big. Again here, trying to engage on a fight without having Mega Gnar up, and TSM takes full advantage.
Yeah, what are they doing there? Maybe the Flash Cocoon catches someone, but where's the follow-up going to be? Because Wild Turtle was over the wall finishing them up. TSM was playing clean and smart. Cloud9 was not.
Yeah, TSM coming up with a very big win there, setting the bar high for themselves to start off the season. But we keep our eyes on Cloud9 as they face off against Gravity, a very expected win for C9.
And Gravity looked awful on day one. So everyone was expecting Cloud9 to come back and finish the week 1-1, but Gravity had other plans.
Yeah, they had other plans, forcing Cloud9 down one time after another and just getting to the back line of this assassination squad from Gravity.
It was an assassination squad from Gravity and a peel comp from Cloud9 with a strong front line. But in these fights, the peel is in the front line and the front line is off to the side or in the back. So it wasn't going well and Gravity got fed.
It just turned into Gravity peeling apart Cloud9 pretty much after that. You can see High, there's no words for the team.
Left to ponder after that one. Cloud9 0-2 in their opening week for the first time ever.
It's going to be tough for them to come back. By the end of day 2, Cloud9 had achieved something they had never done before. That's start a season 0-2. Here to walk us through some of the reasons for their rough start is Kobe.
Yeah, a rough and shocking start for Cloud9, Riv. At this point, though, everybody's well aware of the individual mistakes that Cloud9 had on their team, none more so than High and Meteos, both of those guys posting on social media, even apologizing to the fans who are used to seeing them in first place. However, what probably surprised people was that the customary wave control and team fight positioning were just not there for Cloud9. They lack that team coordination that everybody expects from them. TSM took advantage of this, shoving down the mid lane and getting several turrets while Cloud9 were unprepared. And in their second game, Gravity just does a great job of initiating on Cloud9 without hesitation when they are split up. Let's take a look at this first clip here. This is one where Cloud9 have the right idea. They have all the resources to make this play, sending 5 people into the bottom side when Gravity can only field 4 people to try and get those deep wards that they are known for down. However, as you see, High gets jumped on before Cloud9 are able to position all 5 people, immediately taken out of the fight, and Gravity even up the numbers there. Now, Cloud9 also continue to have problems with positioning, and Gravity do a great job of taking advantage of this loose positioning. Now, this one is where the tank is split pushing versus Zed off screen here, and you can see the high priority targets for Cloud9, Sneaky and High, are both up at the turret. So they are in a very vulnerable situation before Sion's even able to get there and do any sort of peeling. Balls arrives very late to the fight, and that was pretty much the story the entire game. Gravity constantly jumping on the high priority targets, Cloud9 just a split second behind, not able to peel. All that being said, remember, this was only 2 games, and in both of those 2 games, Cloud9 still had great openers. This is a classic Cloud9. They had lane swaps where they got giant advantages for balls, gold and experience. The only thing they have to switch up is the individual play and leveraging those early advantages that they grab in lane swaps into mid-game control. I think they're going to bounce back pretty quickly, though.
All right, but CJ's losses were the only big upset from the first week in the North American LCS. While TSM started things off with a victory against their rivals, Team 8 wasn't ready to roll over themselves. It might have been a rough start for Team 8's Lushi as he dies from Santorin's Rengar here in the early part of the game. But after that, these guys were able to really pull themselves together.
Yeah, it's called Team Solo Mid, but it definitely felt like Team Duo Mid here as Santorin used his first 4 Rengar ultimates on the mid lane, but only netted that 1 kill. Watch Slushi because he was able to get some farm.
These were some amazing Orianna ultimates, especially against a team like this. You got to put yourself in some scary spots.
That one play completely erased any deficit he felt in lane, and I don't think TSM was respecting it. That put him over the top.
Over the top, indeed. The power play is coming in from Slushi, and nobody expected this type of play from Team 8 or some of the teams that were expected to be at the bottom of the standings.
Not at all. There was the triple kill right there, and really excited Team 8 right there. This is what made everyone 1-1 at the end of it, were those upsets down the stretch.
Indeed, and they only have 2 games to play against each other, and you thought you'd be getting a lot of people getting 2 games off of those guys. Yeah. But the biggest story coming out of North America has to be the dominance of Team Liquid as the only team to open the season with 2 wins. Something nobody expected while their star AD carry was sidelined. Let's check out some of their highlights. At 17:25 here into the game, the TSM versus CLG. This one went on quite long, but it started in the mid game. It's 2-0 already, but Team Liquid already has control of the game.
And something that really stood out about Team Liquid this week was their ability to play as a team. Even though Phoenix was picked off there, they were still willing to follow up because they had the overall advantage in the fight. And Keith was playing with house money here, willing to take risks, and they kept working.
And you know something that's funny, if you look back at when Team Liquid was cursed, they wouldn't really take the risks. They put the pause button on. It's a completely new team now. And here, seeing Benny go in, it looks bad, but Team Liquid has other things.
How is that for a play by Xpecial? While he is getting caught out, he flashes over the blitz hook to land a Tibber stun, and that just allowed the rest of Team Liquid to pile on because COG used so much to try and catch Xpecial in the first place.
And little things like that just kept cutting them down. Link getting taken down while backing. Baron now on Team Liquid as they just pummel through with the afterburners on here into CLG's base.
And this was just a fact of their team comp and lead coming into play. They lock everyone in the Cataclysm. Phoenix's Azir just crushes them with his soldiers, and the only 2-0 team in North America is Team Liquid.
Crazy play for them to come out on top. And after looking back at those games, you know, what did Team Liquid do that none of the other teams managed to do?
Obviously win 2 games, but the rest of it is they just looked solid in every position. Top lane, mid lane, jungle, and obviously the bottom lane who filled in at the last minute. No other team can actually say that. On top of that, they had very synergistic team comps. A lot of teams picked well, but these guys really played their team comp to their maximum potential. They had great objective control with good team fight, team compositions, and on top of all that, they pulled this off while overcoming some LCS rookies and first-timers. Phoenix, first game in the LCS. Keith, also first LCS games. And it didn't really show. They played like a much more experienced team.
So right now, one of the big questions that some of the fans are asking is, what does Team Liquid do after a huge performance from their sub who filled in for Piglet? You know, in a post-game interview, Xpecial did mention that communication has been a detriment in the bot lane because Piglet doesn't speak English. That wasn't an issue with Keith. So what changes now with Piglet?
Well, the short answer is nothing changes for Team Liquid, and they actually get a little bit stronger because everyone we talked to, even though Keith did well, no one expected Keith to do well. Even Keith himself, it really felt like, until after he had done so.
Right.
And Piglet is just a fantastic mechanical player. And he is 100% in for week 2. Both Steve, their co-owner of Team Liquid, and Xpecial have said that. So there's not going to be any type of roster total switch when Keith stays in.
Better play him.
And yeah, I'm really expecting the mechanical skill of Piglet to show a stronger bottom lane. Whether that translates to success or not, I'm not sure.
We'll see. Keith definitely found his footing by the start of the LCS as he went 15, 2, and 23 overall. Pretty impressive for an ADC or anyone. Although I Will Dominate was quick to put the brakes on the Liquid hype train, tweeting, "People are overreacting way too much to our 2-0 first week. We beat 2 mid-level LCS teams that also had subs."
Of course, we're all waiting to see what Liquid looks like with Piglet. But I'm more excited now to see what they look like with the new fan expectations. You can tweet all you want, I'll Dominate, and tell people, hey, calm down, we're not actually that good. The fact remains that people think they are the best team in the North American LCS. And now anything less than that is a disappointment. And when they go in, they have to play with that pressure. So it's going to be tough to see how they do it.
That's true. They put up the power and they're proving it themselves. And while we wait to see Piglet play, let's take a look at the North American standings after the first 10 games. And luckily, he'll find himself with a bit of breathing room.
Nice place to start.
Team Liquid, they surge ahead to a 2-0 best in the chart start.
And meanwhile, all of the other NALCS teams split their games at 1 win and 1 loss, and only Cloud9 picked up back-to-back defeats.
Now it's time for the Twitter question of the week. Last time we asked you to let us know who were the 3 most played champs in the mid lane during last year's regular LCS season. The correct answers were Lulu with 78 picks, Orianna with 95, and Ziggs with 110. Plenty of you tweeted us with the right answer and scored yourself a charming Challenger Ahri skin. Nice work. But this week is a little more challenging because we want you to tell us which player earned the highest KDA during their first week in the LCS. And that's since the LCS began. So take your brain on a trip down memory lane and see if you can come up with the correct answer. Send your responses to @LOL Esports along with the hashtag PTL, and we'll use your name on air if you get it right. So if you've been longing for a chance to live in infamy, this is it. With all the roster swaps, name changes, and of course matchups across the LCS, it's finally time to listen in behind the scenes and have the pros sort things out for us. It's time for Mic Check.
We got hand warmers everywhere. You get a hand warmer, I get a hand warmer, everyone gets a hand warmer.
Can they hear us?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay, fine.
You're not gonna get fined for saying anything bad, like... Well, I'm not gonna say anything bad.
I know. I love League of Legends.
Dude, the audience is so much nicer in this studio. And 90% of them are TSM.
Hey, there's one person with a dig shirt.
Really? Is there really?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Come help us. Come help us.
Come.
Holy shit.
Kelly. Oh, shit!
My bad.
This stage just got better and better. I've gone from no keyboard to my keyboard with lights. Today is a good day.
Alright boys, we're going 2 more mid this game.
Okay guys,
Really?
I officially ignore our coaching advices right now.
Okay, so clear course, good plan.
If they go for Baron right now,
We can just end it.
And gang?
No. Only if they Baron. Oh, they're Baroning?
They're banned.
I'm a zero.
Stop me right here.
I stop. Okay, and cancel TP. Okay. Tank.
Nice, Gamsu.
Keep going.
Gamsu.
Good job.
Okay, I can stun.
2 seconds.
Go. I'm on the. 2 seconds. I'm still on Drake. Nice. Happy. I need to break.
We're coming.
I can take it up.
No, back.
Kill.
Nice. And
Let's go! Oh my god, I'm so happy.
Some pretty chaotic comms from the new teams that are coming into the LCS.
A little bit of cleanup, but I just love those segments.
It's awesome. Turning our attention to Korea now. One of the highlights from last week was a true battle for first place as 3-0 CJ Entus and the 3-0 GE Tigers took to the Rift to settle the score. A score for top spot in the league.
Who expected that would be between these two teams at the start of the season? But here we are. Gank and Shy in the top lane because there was no pressure anywhere else on the map.
And still somebody you got to put down on the team, Shy, a very impactful player with the Narvin combo coming up big for these guys throughout this game.
And then GE does reach a little too far at Baron. The shutdown Shy gets a great equalizer to push them out of the pit. And it looked for a second like CJ might be coming back in this game.
CJ definitely put down some great fight attempts here to pull off a few kills for themselves, back out, and stop those objectives from happening. But GE knew what to do the whole time.
Yeah, CJ was only preventing the inevitable with that nice Rumble ult because GE just had stronger team fighting right there. Smeb's Gnar was out of this world, smashing Mad Life against the Nexus.
44 minutes for that game as now we head into game 2, and just 5.5 minutes into this one, they find Smeb in the top lane. But Lee is going to be right on his tail.
You don't catch Smeb, Smeb catches you at that point. They thought they'd be able to get him on Kassadin, and what a great, almost hook shot it seemed like from Lee to pick up that first kill.
Shy gets out by the skin of his teeth. And we just head about 10 minutes down the road. A huge fight here towards the bottom lane. And this super mobile comp coming in from GE Tigers. You just can't stop them.
Lee on Lee Sin,
Yes.
Smeb on Kassadin, and you throw the Blanc for the cherry on top in this team composition. There's no escape. Once GE Tigers pulled ahead here, they just ran around and killed CJ Entus everywhere.
It was crazy. Those people weren't even close to each other. And they grabbed more and multiple people for the fight, pressing into the base at 33 minutes. GE just prey on their opponents.
Oh, that's a good one. It's such a team of old-timers, it seems like, with a nice little bit of infusion. They're just looking really strong. I can't wait for the rest of the LCK season to happen.
It's going to be amazing. Let's see what GE's 2-game sweep did to those LCK standings. That series win pushed the GE Tigers to the top, and it actually bumped CJ down into 3rd place. Their overall record put them 1 game behind SKT1, who control 2nd.
And after winning their series this morning, Incredible Miracle is now tied with Jin Air Green Wings in the middle, with the rest of the Korean team struggling to make a big impact in this split, especially Samsung Galaxy, who have just 1 victory out of 9 games played and no overall match wins.
And now let's bring in a man who can tell us even more about the LCK. It's OGN's Chobra. Hey, Chobra, it's great to have you back.
Thank you very much, Riv. I'm excited to be here because there's a lot of stuff that happened in just 1 week already in LCK.
Yeah, there was. The split, we've seen already the GE Tigers completely controlling 1st place, while teams like Naj and Ian Fire have plummeted. What's your take on this so far?
Well, I can't say I'm not surprised. I mean, GE Tigers, they've really blown everyone away, and finally they beat a team, CJ Entus, this past week, that also seemed to be one of the stronger teams and that had already beat teams like SKT. So while GE Tigers haven't played SKT themselves, a lot of the arguments that people had were, well, your schedule was easier in the first 2 weeks, so we'll see how you do as you ramp up against these stronger teams. Now they beat CJ quite convincingly, so a lot of people are looking forward to GE Tigers actually playing against these top tier teams such as SKT.
And another thing that's popping up among the community is, where is OQ? What's up with Najin right now?
It's a question on everyone's mind. OQ supposed to be that star AD carry, and they're still not putting him in reliably as a starter for the Najin EM Fire team. Looks like that bit them once again in their matchup against Jinair, where Jinair was able to get a nice early lead in the first game, get the momentum rolling, and then able to continue that to a match win 2-1 over Najin EM Fire. Now, when they played OQ, sure, they ended up losing the whole match in the end, but the question really remains, if OQ had been there from the beginning and had Najin gotten the momentum, could they have gotten a 2-0 against Jinair?
All right, Choba, thanks again. We'll have to see if a challenger arises to meet the Tigers this week, and we'll speak with you soon.
While we're on the subject of teams from around the world, let's check out the LOLesports.com power rankings. And just so you know how we arrived at these, experts from each region of the 5 major leagues rate teams within their own region. Then using those rankings, it is debated amongst the experts from those regions to form an international power ranking with all teams together. The factors that go into these rankings are strength of schedule, quality of wins, of losses, consistency, team fighting, objective control, the whole shebang. And if you are confused and want more context about the regional rankings, go to LOLesports.com and check out the Power Rankings article. It's a good read. But for now, we're going to do the top 5. Let's take a look. A team from China, LGD, is actually right here. They had some big off-season acquisitions, Imp, Flame, and Acorn, all big-time Korean players. And these guys are 3-0-1 in the standings so far. They beat Energy Pacemakers, Starhorn Royal Club, M3, with their only loss coming to EDG, and there's a lot of talent on that team, which puts them at number 5. Number 4 is another team from the LPL. In fact, number 1 in the LPL in the standings, 4-0-0. It is none other than OMG, who picked up Uzi in the offseason. These guys have been styling on people. They crushed Vici Gaming, Energy Pacemaker, Starhorn Royal Club, Team WE, but it was the opinion of the Chinese regional experts that they actually weren't the best team in China. That title, right now, goes to EDG. Now, this team had to overcome FCZF's retirement at the start of the year, and Mouse has proved an adequate replacement, but the real stars of the team are Pawn and Deft, formerly from Samsung. If you watched Worlds, you know how good Pawn is. These guys have beat King Gaming, Vici, LGD, and had a slip-up against Snake that the experts were willing to give them a pass on because of the potential skill and team play of EDG. Now, there's still Korean teams left, though. GE Tigers from Korea are number 2 on this list, despite being completely undefeated. Smeb, Prey, and Gorilla are some of the standouts on this team. They are currently undefeated, as I said, beating Incredible Miracle, Samsung, Jinair, and CJ Entus, which was an undefeated belt they had fairly recently with them. But even with the undefeated schedule, it couldn't top the power ranking poll from SKT T1. This, as everyone knows, is Faker's team. But the biggest surprise here is that Faker is rarely starting their best of 3s. He comes in for Game 2 and Game 3 if necessary, so they're really mixing it up a little bit with EasyHoon. They did lose to CJ, but if you ask the expert panel who's a better team, SK Telecom or the GE Tigers, almost unanimously people were saying SK Telecom, which is why they're number 1 on the list.
And with so many games happening around the world, there's no shortage of insane kills, eye-blistering team fights, and miraculous plays. So let's take a look at some of the best plays, or as Narvin likes to call it, the Penta. Coming in at number 5, Gamsu's Aurelia ultimately won Dignitas the game.
The Baron takes too long to kill. What are they thinking?
That's bad news, Bears. I do not know where that call just came from. This is going to be stopped. That's not empowered. Transcendent blades through the entire team.
Slithering in at number 4 is Cabochard's 5-man Cassiopeia.
Look at this, they're on the inhibitor. They've got Diamond. Diamond's going to get shut down in a moment. He is killed by Chachi, and Unicorns turn to the inhibitor turrets. Oh, that's a great stun by Cabochard. Great engage from Cabochard.
Now let's look at Cabochard here. And it's engaged together with Edward coming in. Is it actually an ulti flash? It is. Beautiful. So he starts the animation from his ulti, and then he flashes after, so there's no reaction time for Unicorn to block.
And at number 3, it's CLG with the Narvin
They
Wombo
bait
combo.
CLG into the wrong spot. A nice knockup's gonna catch Xmithy. Q gets canceled. In goes Link. Dodo's about to die, but maybe Lulu's something to say about this one. Here comes the fight. No double lift, but CLG's gonna win a 4v5.
Let's take another look. Link goes right into the middle. Frozen Tomb on himself still does all the damage he needs in an AoE on everybody. And then Jarvan Cataclysm goes up. There's a wall there anyway. Benny comes in for the full Team Gnar ultimate. Only person he didn't get was Sion, which doesn't matter.
Coming in at number 2, Shorter Race kicks 2 from a long ways away.
Whoa!
Okay.
That was actually pretty sweet. Both of them flying in different directions.
Here it is! Shorter Ace.
Look at this. He kicks her so hard that he flies backwards.
Well, Belter goes in first for the juke, and Shorter Ace goes in right behind him.
Yeah.
What a beautiful combo.
And at number 1, it's King's Assassin with the Fizz
comes through
pentakill.
with a beautiful monsoon to get everyone out of this one. LXJ is going to come out, but Assassin picks up Kane. That's almost all of the damage gone now, and Drizzle taking a lot of damage. Amazing J, the Trump the Waters. It's the Assassin show now as he gets knocked up by Amazing J. Sort of annoyed by this Scion, but nothing much else as Drizzle's getting taken down so low. And the dive to come through. Look at Sky, he's so tanky. Playful Trickster secures his last kill. Is that the pentakill for Assassin? What a beast!
Perfect name to pick up the Penta. And remember, if you see a play worthy of a spot in our penultimate top 5 list, then hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports and use the hashtag #ThePenta. And well, that brings this episode of PrimeTime League to a close, but the excitement continues tomorrow as the EU LCS heads into week 2.
Riv and I will see you this weekend for the North American LCS, and be sure to meet us here next week when PTL returns.